What's up, everyone? I'm Thomas Stoneham-Judge here to lead conversation this week on ForReel with our team on the movie Superman. I think there's a lot to talk about, lots to get into, so let me introduce you to who is all on this call. We have Derrick Murray, Shawn Peer, Ethan Hunter, and Davey Mitchell. Guys, who's ready to talk about Superman?
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
So this has been like the topic of conversation in the movie world for like the last week, ever since press screenings last Monday, all throughout last week. My reels and short form videos is just full of Superman content, and I feel like there's a lot to talk about. I want to go ahead and start with our initial reactions to the movie after you saw it. Derrick, let's start with you. When you saw Superman, you walked out of the theater. What was your initial reaction?
Yeah, it's an incredibly busy movie. So it's understandable that we have a lot to talk about. It's overly ambitious, it's overstuffed, it's messy as hell. But it is also like a Saturday morning cartoon come to life, and it is also just vibrant and bursting with color and ton of hope and joy and kindness and humanity, all these things that Superman has been and should always be. And so I kind of feel like the strengths just outweigh a lot of the flaws, and I came away from it because if for nothing else, it's consistently entertaining. Like there's never a part in this movie where you're just like, all right, guys, let's wrap this up, right? It moves, it's propulsive. Like you just can't help but enjoy it, and then all of the performances are just so good that yeah, all of those narrative flaws for me just kind of washed away, and I still walked away really enjoying it. So
For sure. Good reaction there. Ethan, let's get your reaction. What were your thoughts after you left the theater?
Um, I have always been like a DC fan, despite the Sam Raimi Spider-Man soundtrack. There, like I do really love DC Comics. I feel like every single theatrically released film with Batman in it has always been good. I don't think any of them are bad. Even Schumacher's films. I even watched a fan edit of Batman Forever recently, and that was insane. Um, but for Superman, there's been a couple of stinkers in there, mainly like Superman 3 and 4. Like I don't think you'll find a single person who will go up to bat for those. Um, I feel like a lot more people dislike Superman Returns than like Superman Returns. Um, we don't have to talk about Zack Snyder at all today because I know you guys, Derek over here, may not be a big fan.
I
Despite
I
my,
literally shower in Snyder Bro tears. It is my favorite thing to do.
I mean, if you can check out my letterboxd, you can see that I give 5 stars to all three of his, and then 5 stars to Superman. Like I like all of them. I like Happy Superman. I like Downer Superman. I like whenever someone. I like Donner Superman. Oh, look at that little thing there. But I think James Gunn's Superman is the best of not just both worlds of Donner and Snyder. If you want to look at those, it's the best of everything. And despite what I see a lot online of people being like, "Why did they change X from the character's lore?" I think everything that is in this movie that was changed is for the better of creating a movie in the climate of right now. And I think because of how positive the general reaction has been to this movie, um, everything has been done for the better. And I will let somebody else speak because I'm just going on and on.
No, that's great. I think that's a really good summary of how you felt about it. Shawn, welcome to This Week on For Real. Glad to have you on here.
Thank you.
Let's get your reaction.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Walking out, I thought of everything, and I was like, you know what? For the first movie in this universe, I'm really satisfied with the way things started. I'm looking forward to what's coming next. I would say my biggest emotion coming out of the theater was relief, because we can talk about how this week it's been all things Superman, but as someone who's been online for as much as I have with the superhero community and comic book movie universe and everything, it's been years of just hearing people complaining about everything with this movie because it's not what they want it to be, it's not what they grew up with, and to just see that so much of the general public is looking forward to this movie and seeing a theater filled with Superman shirts and merchandise and people excited for these comic book characters on screen again. It's exciting. I don't want movies to be a constant argument and you like this so you suck or you hate this so you suck. Like mostly everyone except a specific pocket of the internet is very happy with what they're getting and what's coming, and it's just a good feeling to have because I've not felt that in a long time. Even with Marvel, which seems like to be going in the opposite direction, to have a universe that people are just looking forward to, it's nice and it's different. And I'm not gonna take it for granted because unfortunately, knowing the history of everything, it's not gonna always be like this. So I'm gonna take it while I can. And maybe I'm not the movie's biggest fan, but I'm just happy to see that everyone is just very happy with what they got.
Yeah, for sure.
It
Uh,
Sean, it feels like event cinema, and we haven't
Yeah,
had that in a
mhm.
really long time.
Yeah, that's a
yeah,
really great way of putting it, for sure. Mitchell, welcome
Yeah,
to your debut on For Real content, and as our
yeah,
as our
thank you so
newest
much.
member, yeah, on the For Real team. Let's get your reaction, man.
Yeah, building off what Derek just said about it being event cinema, I think that's a really great way to put it because it was one of those movies where I went to a packed IMAX showing, sold out, middle of a row with my friends. And it really is one of those films where that experience, I think, heightened my enjoyment of the film. If I had watched this like in the middle of a weekday, just kind of an empty auditorium, it wouldn't have had that impact. And I'm interested to see how it holds up on multiple viewings. I plan on seeing it again in theaters and whether or not that atmosphere carries over to my enjoyment of the film. My immediate reaction walking out is I was very happy with the end product. I know a lot of chatter was happening in the theater lobby, as does happens most with these blockbusters, and it was just one of those movies that really flashed me back to a period of time. I grew up with Superman comic books and the original Christopher Reeve film. My grandfather showed me those at a young age, so they were very influential in my life. And the one thing that ran through my mind as I was watching this movie is just it flashed me back to that period of time where I was reading those comic books. And I think that's the perfect atmosphere for this kind of entry. And I'm interested to see how it carries over to other James Gunn entries and other entries in this DC universe. I would say that the immediate reaction was also positive because you might know that the movie was partially shot in my hometown of Cincinnati. So people in this area were cheering when the Hall of Justice appeared on screen and it was our museum center. So that was just a really interesting kind of facet of this film. It's interesting to see like the disconnect between fans and residents of the city and just how excited they are for this film.
Nice. Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I echo like a lot of what you guys are saying. I mean, I landed positive on the film. In fact, in the movie, I was thinking that that event cinema thing that we're talking about, I was definitely feeling that in the movie. It felt like an event. It felt like something to be a part of, and I was like in in the moment of watching the movie, just thoroughly invested in it and really enjoying it. Um I think maybe the messiness got to me a little bit in retrospect, and I wish that I could have maybe internalized the themes a little more thoroughly, with a more streamlined plot. I don't like some of the detours that it took with the plot. I think again, kind of like Derek was saying, it's a bit messy, and I think some refinement could have been useful there, but all this positivity around like having seeing it and really vibing with it, and the comedy, I thoroughly enjoyed. Overall, it's a very enjoyable film, and like I think in my review, I came off pretty critical about the plot and the messiness, but ultimately I land positively on it, and I think I said that this is um this is a movie that you can really recommend to anyone who just wants to have a great time at the theater. And for that reason, I'm sure. I mean, I haven't seen box office numbers yet, but I'm sure it's going to be a big box office weekend for it. And I could see this movie also having legs, with not a whole lot coming out next weekend. Fantastic Four. We'll see how that one turns out. But yeah, I get and I guess that's the other thing is that with my history with Superman, I spent more than a decade on the Marvel train, which made me less interested in DC stuff, and Superman in particular. I had a hard time finding to be an interesting enough character to invest in. And so like, and that's just me, right? I understand that yeah, I guess I understand the character enough, but like I'm on Marvel, and so when the MCU was going on, like I didn't care about Superman movies. And it's so interesting now how my perspective has flipped because Marvel needs to really get their shit together right now, and I hope that they do. Like I mentioned, Fantastic Four. If they can just put out 2 good movies in a row, that would be awesome, right? And I, in my review, I had mentioned like me 5 years ago would be so appalled that I'm, shitting on Marvel while, championing a DC film. It's just not what not my state of interest in cinema back then. But yeah, I'm very happy with what James Gunn did here. It's so in his wheelhouse. Like there's just no doubt. There's a part of me that's like maybe he just was really good with this up until now, but no, this is so his wheelhouse. This is exactly what he's great at, and he can do this forever, and I'll be there for it. So. Um, there's a lot to talk about with the film, but I want to start with the characters and casting, because I think that these actors, David Cornsweet, Rachel Brosnahan, and Nicholas Hoult, as the kind of leading trio, I suppose, Superman, Lois Lane, and Lex Luthor. Open conversation. What do you guys think about the casting?
Brilliant all around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gunn really knows how to put the right people in place, and he definitely when he doubled down or quadrupled down against everybody coming for him for Cornsweet, like within like 2 minutes of him just starting, I was like, oh yeah, no, that guy's Superman. Like
Yeah.
he's got all the sweetness, all the charm, all that do-gooder Boy Scout stuff with that. Like somebody called him like the emo Superman, but not in like a Spider-Man 3 type of way, right? Like he does. He's a little bit younger. He's a little bit more emotionally driven, and his goodness is actually clashing with the way the world is because he's kind of new to it. And I really like that aspect of Superman.
Ethan, I love how we
Of
just get
course.
a new piece of
Good
your
movie.
collection every episode. Like, this is-
Always,
Good
always.
movie. Emo, but not derogatory.
Yes, no, absolutely, 100%. So I really like that. And then Brosnahan, I know we're going to talk about some other characters, but I have to give a shout out to Brosnahan. She has been and is probably the best iteration of Lois Lane on the big screen that I've seen in a really long time. I have always struggled with the Lois Lane character, particularly in film, not so much in like if you ever watch any of the DC cartoons, like their animated films, bro, they are, you want to talk about like the Marvel DC swap, like they are Marvel movie quality. They just happen to be animated. Like every single time I watch one, I'm just like, can y'all just make this the movie? What are you have the blueprint, just make this. But in most film iterations, Lois Lane is like, she's the worst part of almost any film. And I'll stand on that business, except for this one. This one, she is, every time she showed up, there was no part of me that's like, why is she here? It's like, oh no, I get it. I get why she's here. She's got incredible chemistry with Cornsweet. I think she's brilliantly cast. Like one of the best castings you can get for Lois Lane. Yeah, really, really, really dig the casting there.
Yeah, Cornsweet has so much to work with, and yeah, he has so much material. He's up, he's down. From the opening scene to the last, he has so much range, and it really shows you in one movie everything he's capable of. And it makes me again really excited to see where he goes with this character, because as much as we see, there's so much more of him to show us, and it makes me very excited. And the press tour has done a great job at showing the chemistry between these 3 people, and it shows on screen. I know a lot of people, again, like Derek said, doubted Cornsweet, Brosnahan, and Holt. Honestly, when Nicholas Hoult was cast as Lex Luthor, I didn't see it. And I feel like a lot of people didn't see it as well, because he does not look like a conventional Lex Luthor. He's not big and strong, and I don't know how many times we had seen him bald at that point, but seeing him on screen, he's a fantastic Lex Luthor. I really bought every time he was on screen. I bought it. He was so angry, so hateful, and I'm just, I'm not going to doubt Gunn with his casting. And a lot of people make fun of Gunn for casting a lot of his friends in these movies and all of his projects, but it works. It really does. I never see people really complain about a casting choice. Nathan Fillion, who has been in a lot of Gunn projects, was a great Green Lantern. We'll get into that more, but people can have their issues about Gunn's writing and his direction, but the casting, I'm sorry, the guy knows what he's doing, and I'm not going to doubt him again.
Mitchell, what about you? What are your thoughts here?
Yeah, I would say building off of that, I just think David Corenswet does a fantastic job of playing this character, but in a way that doesn't feel too derivative or too kind of building off of other iterations. He makes it his own individual thing. You see elements of Reeves in there, you see elements of Cavill, but it's not like too much of a parody where you don't really see this own individual performance. And I think that's just going to be a really strong point with this character going forward as Gunn continues to build on him and Corenswet continues to build on him. It's going to be interesting to track that. And building off of the Rachel Brosnahan conversation as Lois Lane, I think the one thing that really sold their performances for me are their dynamic and interactions in the film. I'd say this is one of the best portrayals of their relationship that I've seen probably in Superman canon. It really does feel pulled straight from the comic books, from the cartoons, even some portions from the original Reeves film. And so I think that dynamic really just sold their connection to me and really made their characters feel more vibrant in the end of the day.
This was the press tour was mentioned. I mean, I think the press tour exclusively sold me on this movie. Like just how these three interact with each other. I've said it multiple times. I put it on Twitter. Look, Celine Song, you have your cast for your next movie. Like this is a love triangle just like naturally. Please make that happen. Like that's just right in your wheelhouse. But like no, their chemistry and their dynamic is so great. And I mean I'm echoing a lot of what you guys are saying about how the chemistry on screen, particularly between uh, um, Rachel and David, just because I think I remember them when they kiss, when they make out, like dang y'all, that is a passion, just
I just have this image of Thomas like watching this on a screener and then looking over at his husband and being like, "Why don't you kiss me like that?"
But for real, every makeout session they have it, and that's what it's not kissing. They're the makeout sessions, like like legitimate. But it's great. It's good chemistry. And the relationship, I loved the fragility in there. Like they clearly are into each other. They clearly value the relationship, but there's still this insecurity that has to be kind of explored. And I like that a lot. And then of course, as far as Lex Luthor, I think Nicholas Hoult did a good job. I think that I wish the character was a little bit more refined, had a little bit more motivation. But Nicholas Hoult as Lex Luthor, heck yeah, absolutely, yeah, that totally worked for me.
I know we didn't really like hammer on him too much, but the more I've thought about it, the less I care about his motivation. I think he explains it pretty clearly. But also, like, you can tell that James Gunn just hates this character, and like, you know what I mean. Like, but you shouldn't have sympathy or empathy for a sociopathic, narcissistic billionaire. Like, no, like he is very Gunn is very clear that billionaires are bad, and that's like, and so Lex Luthor and this portrayal from Holt, it just embodies all of those worst tendencies. Anything you think that's bad about a billionaire, yeah, this is your guy. He can be any of them. Like, name any of them. He is Zuckerberg. He is Musk. He is Trump. He is all of them. Like, he's just all of them rolled into one, and yet he's still kind of his own. He's not doing an impersonation of any of them, but like, he is just literally demonstrating the fact that, like, yes, Luthor is a product of a system that favors this kind of behavior, and naturally he would be against all of the good in the world. And to me, that worked. I actually wanted more of him. I actually thought him being relegated to kind of a side character when we get into Act 2 is probably where I have most of my issues. But once we kind of roll into that Act 2 and both him and Superman kind of disappear a little bit, I think that's where things get a little weak. But those two, you talk about, sorry, I'm going to say this and then I'll shut up. But I love that we're talking about the press tours because I don't necessarily need to go out of my way to watch them, but
Mhm.
that will tell you so much about the movie based on how natural the cast feels when they're sitting with each other, right? Like
Mhm.
you watch that trio, and it is clear that they had a great time on set. They loved filming this movie. They have no animosity with their director. Everybody got along. Like you can just tell that was a really fun work environment. And you can see it in press tours where, like, sure, nobody's talking shit, but like they do not like each other, and this was not a fun experience. um, but it makes for a better movie when everybody is having a good time on set and they're all really proud of their work and they all get along, and you can see it when they're all doing these press tours. I think it's just a really big testament to how good of performers they are, but also how smart Gunn is to bring those three together.
Mhm. For sure. So we talked about the main cast. I wanna know who your favorite, supporting character was. Ethan, let's start with you. Who is your favorite supporting character?
This one's this one's a really tough question to answer. I don't want to be like, oh, but they're all so good because, like, obviously everyone's good. As we've established, Gunn knows how to cast. I love little bit parts like that are smaller, like Perry White, um, Metamorpho. But I mean that's a little bit more than bit part. But I think I speak for everyone who has ever seen this movie and ever will see this movie. Mr. Terrific. Like, come on. Like
I
that
was
was
gonna say it, but I wanted you guys to like, Mr. Terrific is so great.
so cool. Gunn's like, we should do I'm thinking about doing a Jimmy Olsen show and another show about Mr. Terrific. And it's like, do them right now. Like, get him started. Like, I want both of them. I want Mr. Terrific. I haven't read comics about Mr. Terrific, but have comics of him doing whatever he does, and have comics where Jimmy Olsen turns into a giant lizard and goes to space, or because obviously I want all of that Silver Age nonsense. Like, that'd be great. I love how Jimmy just obviously is Jimmy in this movie. I don't know if I should say more because that kind of goes into a spoiler point in the movie,
Mhm,
but
good point.
I would say definitely Mr. Terrific and Jimmy Olsen, and the fact that he wants to bring them back more, all for it.
Mhm. Sean, who is your favorite supporting character?
For me, Mr. Terrific was definitely a standout, especially that scene with the song. That's all I'll say. I know we're all thinking of it, but for me, when I really do think about it, I really enjoy Jimmy Olsen because that was a character I had no expectations for going in, and I was like, he's just in here because he's a famous Superman character. But again, without going into spoilers, he has stuff to do, and it was funny and it was different from anything I've ever seen in a comic book movie like that. And I really enjoyed it, and I liked when he was on screen and when he was interacting with other characters, and he had a purpose. So I would say him. I know that's a bit of an unconventional pick in a movie full of superheroes to pick Jimmy Olsen, but I gotta say I really enjoyed him when he was on screen.
Absolutely. Mitchell, who is your favorite supporting character?
Yeah, I definitely loved the two that were mentioned, Mr. Terrific and Jimmy Olsen. I think they really just stand out for their own specific ways. But I'd say the biggest surprise for me in the supporting cast was definitely Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner. That was the one character I wasn't sold on in the marketing. Whenever I saw clips of him, I'm like, that bowl cut, man, I just can't get past that, I don't think. But throughout the movie, he really does have moments to shine both comedically and more dramatically, and he has great action sequences. And Nathan Fillion really plays him where he comes off as relatable, yet also kind of a jerk sometimes, where he's like egotistical. You feel that really deep down. I just think it's a great characterization moment. And I think Nathan Fillion really was the performer to kind of do this role. He just has what it takes to kind of convey that.
I love
When I
that they
saw the casting announcement, sorry, of
no,
Nathan Fillion, I was like, perfect. Like, you see him in like other bit parts in James Gunn movies, like the security guard in Guardians 3. I saw that and I'm like, yeah, perfect, done. Put a bowl cut on him. That's Guy Gardner. So it absolutely ruled. They got it from there day one. Like, yeah, perfect.
Mhm. Derek,
Yeah,
do you
Nathan Fillion is to James Gunn as Samuel L. Jackson is to Quentin Tarantino.
Mm,
That is,
yes.
yeah, I while I do criticize this film for being way too overstuffed, and I think there's just a little bit too much going on. Um, Obviously, the inclusion of Mr. Terrific and the redemption for that actor in a superhero movie, like it's so clear that Gunn just sat him down. I was like, bro, I'm gonna make you the coolest guy in a Superman movie, and then literally made him the coolest guy in a Superman movie, which is just dope. And that actor, long overdue for some credit for him, because I just think he just completely embodies this role. He does a great job. He's a scene stealer. Um,
Well,
so
we had talked about this too, because I think you made a really interesting point about how Superman is not cool. He's kind
right,
of dorky, he's kind of nerdy,
yeah,
and I think having a Mr. Terrific here to really like accentuate the nerdy, especially in that post-credit scene,
yeah,
to really accentuate Superman being dorky, but Mr. Cool, Mr. Terrific being the super cool character here. Like,
yeah.
I just loved that stark contrast and just how cool they made him.
And you can see it like in their banter. It's whenever
Mhm.
they're having their back and forth, and whenever they're on screen, like, yeah, Superman's corny, and that's okay. Like, it's okay for him to be. He's a corny character. He always has been, but that's part of his endurance. That's why people really gravitate towards him, because yeah, he is objectively uncool. He just happens to be the most powerful being on Earth. But so then you get somebody like Mr. Terrific who is cool and knows that he's cool and knows what he can do. I just loved him. And listen, I know the internet is dark and full of terrors, and people have all kinds of weird takes. But guys, Crypto the dog is just
Crypto.
listen, the saving Superman is a little repetitive, as you know, they kind of play into that a little too much. I think it gets over repeated. But like, I have a puppy. That
Mm.
dog, James Gunn owns a dog. That I don't need to Google that. Like, that man owns a dog without question, because my puppy is basically Crypto without superpowers. Just an unruly terror that ruins more things than it does, and then every now and then it does something super adorable, and I just forgive it for everything it just did. So I'm giving a shout out to CGI Crypto the dog.
Crypto had me just rolling like that. I see so much of my own dogs in Crypto, and it's just like, this is entirely accurate. Like, you couldn't write a dog into this movie more accurately than Crypto. Uh, I was a big fan of that. But actually, that's a really interesting segue into another thing I wanted to talk about in this movie, which is kind of, I've heard mixed things about it. Most people are positive on it, but I've heard some criticism about it, which is the comedy. I'm curious more about how you guys felt the comedy, about having this kind of comedic tone to this movie, how whether that worked or not.
I'll go first with this. So, I I think throughout all Gunn's movies, I think about 90 to 95% of all of his humor has really worked for me. Like in Guardians 2, um like one of the best like jokes, I think I was going to say running jokes, but I think it just comes up like twice, where Drax is like, "Oh, what are these?" and Quill is like, "Arbulax batteries," and Drax is like, "Harbulary batteries." That's nothing what I like just said. Like he has like such a great wit and understanding for what a good joke is. Um like I said, like 90 to 95% of the time. And I think everything in this movie landed for me. And a lot of people are going to be like, "Oh, I didn't think it was funny." But I think in a, as much as I love them, post Zack Snyder DC world, you really have to make a swing in the totally opposite direction to get everybody on board for this. Because if it's too serious, people are going to be like, "Oh, I saw those other like 8, like 10 movies that came out by Snyder and the other people. So I don't want more of that." And no one's going to show up. But if you make a movie that's funny and fun for the whole family, um, then it's going to work great. And I think I understand where some people come from But I do think in the most emotional moments, this film works great.
Yeah. Anyone else want to weigh in on comedy? I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, sorry, Thomas. If you were going to say something,
No, it's all good. Go ahead, Sean.
sure. No, I completely agree with Ethan where James Gunn knows how to insert comedy very well into his movies, and we don't want to be watching the most serious comic book movies. I think they have a place, and I don't think they belong in comic book movies to just be 100% serious all the time. But when this movie needs to get serious, it really does, and he doesn't insert jokes just because. The second act with Metamorpho, I'm not the biggest fan of it, but it's a very serious scene, and you don't have Superman cracking jokes like other characters in other universes might, and that's something people get mad about. But even when Superman and Lois are talking, they're not making jokes on one another. Like, it's serious, it's real world stuff, and Gunn doesn't shy away from that. So as much as it's fun to watch people make jokes, Mr. Terrific makes a lot of jokes, Guy Gardner is a very unserious character. There's a balance, and the balance is very well done. And I think if you're a fan of James Gunn's movies, I'm not going to see you having any complaints about where he inserts comedy into these movies compared to other ones. Yeah, that's what I would have to say about the comedy.
Yeah, I think to your guys' point, like, this is an unserious movie to begin with. Like, this is Gunn digging through his comic book collection and then just straight up bringing comic books to life. Like, that is what he is doing. And I said it before, but it's a Saturday morning cartoon. Like, yes, of course, there's going to be this injection of comedy. I do think that when it comes to some of the things that Superman does, and this movie is so unapologetically Gunn that I think that's also like it's his indulgences of his best weaknesses and his best strengths. And one of them is I think Superman at times falls into this Peter Quill leading man type of thing. And there are some quips that he does that, while yes, they're funny, but like Superman is not Peter Quill. They are distinctly two different characters, even though they have some similar arcs of like, found family and that type of stuff. But like the quippiness, like there were just some moments in this movie where it's like, okay, we get it, Chris Pratt. Like there's there's a little bit of that kind of baked into that writing. But I will say, outside of that, I think it's good to offload more of that, kind of Rocket Raccoon style onto Guy Gardner, giving it to somebody like Nathan Fillion, who just understands Gunn's language better than probably anybody. I think that's the right thing to do. I think there's a lot of really good, well-placed comedy, and it never felt overbearing. It never felt like, okay, man, like we don't need to do the Thor Ragnarok thing where like everything is undone by a one-liner. So I think
Love
there's
and
a lot
Thunder
of
is so
balance. But
shit.
you're what?
Thor:
Oh,
Love and Thunder is so shit.
it's awful. Just the worst. But yeah, so I think it works. I'd venture to say 85% of the time, and then there's like a 15% where I'm like, that's a little too Gunn.
I agree with all of that 100%. And I think the one interesting factor for these Gunn films is how that humor and that overbearing sense of comedy really makes the emotional moments, in my opinion, pop more. If it was just kind of like a straightforward, more serious film, I think those emotional moments would feel kind of mixed in too much, not like be able to stand out. But here, I think that those emotional moments and poignant moments, and there are a few scattered throughout. Again, the tone is more comedic in tone, but I would say those moments really felt more impactful because you're able to empathize with these characters. You're able to kind of find yourself inside of this vibrant and comedic world. And I think that's what Gunn excels at the most. I would say some jokes might not land for some people. Again, humor is subjective in these films, especially. I know a few people close to my life really don't appreciate Gunn's humor style, but I'd say it really does fit into this world that I think he's trying to portray here very well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the comedy is really one of the reasons why I was so invested in it when I was watching it. Like I said, it really felt like a movie that I could really be like fully invested in and fully engaged with. And the comedy really played a role in that. And yeah, and I think it did make the emotional moments really pop. So I liked when Clark Kent is talking with Lois Lane and he's like, yeah, I interviewed Superman. Oh, interesting. You keep getting all these interviews with Superman. That was really funny. So like I think there's really good moments that the comedy kind of that stands out in my head when I think about the movie and reflect on the movie, and I think that's what good comedy does. Um, so we've talked very positively about this movie, which is awesome, and I'm so happy that everyone's loving it. I'm gonna just tell you where my issues were with the film, and you guys can tell me where I'm wrong and change my mind. But I mentioned the plot was a kind of a pain point for me, just because I personally felt like the stakes, I couldn't really invest into the stakes all that much, because it just never felt like, and I guess, just for anyone listening, we're going to go ahead and get into spoilers here, because I want to really hash this one out. Because I think that the stakes, it just felt like everything that seemed like super destructive or super like threatening was so easy to either avoid or undo. We talked about the split in the universe. Oh wait, did we talk? I don't know, but like there's a split in the universe is splitting the world in half and going through Metropolis, and the solution for that is to enter a code, and the world just zips back up. And I was like, wow, that was easy. It makes none of that feel like it was really a threat. And I think there was another point, the the Minecraft river that that they floated through in the pocket universe. Oh my gosh, they're being sucked into a black hole. Superman is out of strength. We don't know what he's gonna do. How is he gonna get out of this? And it's just his super breath pushes him out of the orbit of a black hole. And I was just like, oh, okay, well, that was easy.
Not
So
exactly.
well, and this is again, I'm so happy for someone to like change my mind here. Yeah, so those were kind of the two things that really stood out in my head, where it's like massive stake, getting sucked into a black hole, universe ripping through Metropolis. But ultimately, it was just kind of like, okay, we'll just do this, and now it's undone. So change my mind.
So I think a lot of the stuff that happens in this movie, it it builds around the central arc of not just Superman, but like the world in the movie.
Mhm.
Like whenever there's something Superman can't do himself, like there's things like holding up a building and like saving somebody, like in that moment of when they're in the pocket dimension and going through the Minecraft river to the black hole, it's not just Superman who he doesn't just get himself out. Like yeah, he's able to push himself, but if everyone else wasn't there to help him, and like then you're like, oh, but Superman is weak or whatever. But that's where like that criticism I don't agree with, because it's his moral strength and he as a character who spoke to Metamorpho, and how he was able to touch him and like change his whole mood, and how he felt about the entire situation. He turned a guy who was literally killing him into someone who helped him stay alive. And that's something that really goes throughout the whole film, um is Superman really inspiring not just the rest of the world, but also the heroes to help too. Like I think when people were like, why didn't Superman show up to I don't know if I speak for everyone else here, but if we get into the conflict in the Middle East topic conversation, I don't remember what the country names are. I'm just going to call them Israel and Palestine respectively, and
I was gonna say, just call them what they are. Just call them
four of
what
you
they
are
are.
going to know what I'm going to say. So people were like, why doesn't Superman show up to Palestine at the end of the film? And I think it's important to show that 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 good and hope in just one person can inspire the rest of the world to do something good. And how that could also reflect reality, and how if we can change minds of some people, we can do better. But yeah, I think from the start of the film, it's very obvious that what Gunn is trying to do is to tell everyone watching this movie who's like, Superman's boring because he can do anything. The film tells you 3 minutes ago Superman lost his first ever fight. Like, it wants you to know that this is a guy who can lose, whether that's from a physical fight, whether that's from an emotional fight, like the moment where he's like, it's a dimensional imp, they got it, I just want my dog, he's not a good dog, but like he's scared out there. It's his emotions and his strong moral character that define the struggles that he has to deal with. It's not, Superman's a harder character to write for, and Gunn really got it down pat, what he understood to what to make for conflict for Superman.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I like the what you're talking about with the themes here on what Superman does and how his impact influences other people, because I do think that that's probably the whole point of the Pocket Universe, besides the parallel with the detaining people deemed undesirable, is is that character development to show, here's another character that isn't necessarily on his team, but then he's, Superman is virtuous enough that he converts them. And so, like, that's the big value I got out of that for sure. But yeah, and I like that insight. Zipping up the universe at the end with a couple codes. Anyone else want to
Yeah, that's a little much. I'm not going to change your mind, because actually those are two things that really kind of, I think, bog things down and convolute the movie a little bit more. I understand kind of the thematic elements when it comes to the pocket dimension, and there are things I like about the pocket dimension. I don't think it looks very good. I think that's the one time where I think all of the all of the kind of the visuals fade away a little bit, and giving it that Minecraft, calling it the Minecraft river, like that's what it is. And it really, it doesn't look good. That whole pocket dimension, I just think looks pretty awful. I get it. I get what he's trying to do thematically. I do think that having to create, so one of the things this movie does really well is, despite how overstuffed and messy it is, there is a leanness to it. And I do appreciate that he yada yadas most of the exposition that you would normally get in a lot of superhero movies. We don't get an origin story. We don't get an explanation for monsters. We don't get an explanation for metahumans. We don't get an explanation for any of this stuff. Like, Gunn is just like, bro, this is Metropolis. Metahumans exist. Here's Superman. He has an arch nemesis. Keep up. Right? And like, that allows him to justify including people like the Justice League, allows him to justify Lex Luthor.
The Justice Gang, actually.
That's not their name.
That's not their name.
Unnamed group of 3 superheroes.
But it also allows him to just introduce kaiju monsters at a whim, right? Like, and not have to explain why nobody cares. You know what I mean? Like, while nobody is just obsessed with like a giant monster that just showed up in Metropolis, everyone's like, oh, here we go again, because that's just the world that we live in. So I like that. But in juxtaposition to the pocket dimension, once we get there, Mr. Terrific has to stand on a green screen and explain the entire movie to us, right? He's got to start going into all the scientific mumbo jumbo, and this is what a pocket dimension is, and this is a pocket river, and this is a Minecraft river, and this is here's how this is why we can't just go get them. And then it repeats with a crypto save, which I kind of feel like should just be bookends. I feel like he should save him once in the beginning and then save him once in the end with the Ultraman thing. That's fine. That's still demonstrating the help that Superman needs while limiting his power without completely limiting it altogether. So I get that he's a hard character to write for, but I just think it travels on too long. I think there are ways to kind of create a black site detainee anti-ice type of thing. I think there's better ways to do that than having to, create mumbo jumbo comic book science just to make that work. However, I do like the monkey shit posting on Twitter. That was that was a personal favorite of mine because I was like, he's talking about you. He's talking about you.
Yes.
Anyone that types super woke unseriously or seriously, he's talking about you.
That was great. Shawn, do you have any critiques or criticisms about maybe the second half? I think is where most of our concerns come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you guys have said already, but in my opinion, I'm just not a big fan of the second act in the pocket dimension. To me, it personally feels a bit disconnected from the first and third acts, which I enjoyed a lot more. I say that in my review for ForReel. Check that out. But it just didn't feel as connected, and it went on for a bit too long for me. By the time he's in the Minecraft river, I'm like, okay, we gotta like wrap this up, because I was just more invested when they were cutting back to Mr. Terrific, trying to save him and other stuff happening in the real world. And it's funny that you guys keep calling it a Minecraft. Oh, I'm so sorry about that. That's the phone going off. Sorry. Um,
It's all
Sorry.
good.
Let me restart that. It's funny that you guys keep calling it a Minecraft river, because for me, Metamorphose Kid looked a lot like the chicken jockey. Blue shirt, green skin. I couldn't get it out of my mind. And I was like, like it really, it didn't bother me. But it's like, did Warner Brothers
That is
not
a
see
banger
this?
observation, Shawn.
It really
like-
is.
Like take out like black, like the chicken. I think the chicken jockey had black hair and the kid didn't have any hair. But like other than that, it like, I'm sorry, like it really didn't.
Are we gonna start the chicken jockey trend for Superman now? You just like go crazy when the Minecraft river
chicken
comes up.
jockey kid, like I don't know. It's weird. And then like what Derek has been saying this whole conversation, just a lot of characters, and I understand a lot of their I understand their purpose, but sometimes it's a lot of bouncing back and forth to seeing what this character is doing at this time. I mean, there, when all the humans are in Mr. Terrific's ship, I get you have Lois Lane, you have Jimmy Olsen, and then you have like three other characters, Cat, um, what's his Ethan? What's his name?
Perry White.
Perry White. Sorry, thank you, Perry White. And then Beck Bennett, Steve, I think his name is. I'm like, okay, like it's getting a bit crowded. I mean, they're making jokes about how there aren't enough seats, but just because you're making jokes about it doesn't mean it's not true. Like it's a lot, and sometimes, when you're making the first movie in a franchise, maybe you can pull back just a little bit. It's a double-edged sword, because I do like that they're just, again, going into everything and not wasting your time being like, okay, this is all this, and they're setting everything up. Like, again, I like that we're not getting a Superman Origins movie for the third time, fourth maybe even. I don't even know at this point, but maybe just a bit less of characters and storylines going on. Personally, yeah, I'll take what I can get, because this is a fantastic movie, but still, like, some things I could shave off.
Yeah, Mitchell, what about you? What are your thoughts on criticisms or anything?
Yeah, my main two problems with the film are actually echoed by a lot of the people here, so I'm glad to see I'm not the only one that felt this way about these things. For one, the pocket dimension segment of the movie really just felt like I was riding a route on Google Maps and it told me to take a detour that was unexpected. You're going to end up at the same place, but the way there is just really crazy and out of the way. And that was kind of what this segment of the film felt like. I didn't really understand, like, I guess I got to there at the end, but I didn't really understand the moment what the scope was, what the point of this segment was. It eventually got there, as mentioned, but it was just a segment that really felt out of place amid an otherwise vibrant and grounded movie that didn't feel over the top in that sense. And I also have to agree with this factor that it did feel overstuffed. It does feel like a comic book in that sense, where it's just a lot of characters, a lot of stuff happening. In fact, at my screening, my friend next to me at the part where the Justice, I guess gang is what we're going to refer to them as now, when they appeared, my friend just involuntarily went, whoa. And I could tell it wasn't like, oh, wow, this is awesome. It was less of that sense and more of, wow, there is so much happening right now. I don't know what to think. And I think that's the reaction that I think a lot of people are going to have, myself included. It kind of needed to trim up at certain segments, but I understand why they didn't do it. But I would be curious to see what the end result would be if they had made those changes.
Yeah. Yeah, all valid points. All valid points. But I think the consensus here seems to be like it's still a fun movie, even with their criticisms. It's still a really, really great great time at the movies and a fun thing to watch. Let's go ahead and wrap this up with final scores. After some of us saw it about a week ago, maybe a few days ago. We've had some time to reflect on it. Let's jump to final scores. Ethan, what's your final rating on this Superman movie?
So if people have seen me in other episodes of this podcast, they'll know that I'm just like a no star heart, or 5 stars. And obviously, as I said earlier, 5 stars. This is like top of the top 1 or 3 of the year, I would say. Um, like my heart wants it over Sinners, but my brain is like, is it?
Do you
So
want to be invited back?
yeah, that's the thing. But I really love this movie, and I'm glad it's getting such a positive reception. I'm really excited to see where they go in Supergirl, who had such a great cameo at the end. Later, bitch. Um,
That
like
was great.
it was just like, it's just like, yeah, and here's like more. And it didn't feel like sequel bait or sequel tease or setup, because obviously, like at the start, it's like, it's not my dog, I'm just looking after him for now. And so the movie, you're waiting for that payoff, and there it is. And obviously we're gonna get Supergirl next year, and we're gonna have Jason Momoa as Lobo in it. Like, we're gonna get something completely different. It's gonna be directed by the guy who did I, Tanya and Lars and the Real Girl and Cruella. Like, Gunn wants to make sure that we're not just getting. I watched a video this morning from the YouTube channel Conbini. It's a French uh the father of Guardians of the Galaxy and boss of DC visits the movie club. I'm just like eyeballing that translation because the title is in French. And he talks a lot about different movies, what inspired him, but there's a point where he's looking over Iron Man, and he mentions it as like the best live action superhero movie. Obviously, he said Spider-Verse is the best one because like it is, but he mentions that there is not going to be a house style for the DC universe. It's all going to be its own thing, and every screenplay has to be complete. And so I'm really excited for where we go from here. I'm excited to see more of Superman, and I'm probably going to see this like infinite more times. I already plan to go see it in IMAX again before the next Marvel slot takes over the IMAX screens. But good movie, go see it. You'll love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a good time. Mitchell, what's your final rating here?
Yeah, so I would have to give it overall 4 out of 5 stars. I just think it's one of those summer movies that you really get every year that really just brings folks out to the theaters, and it's just a blast from start to finish. You have those every year, and I think this is definitely one of the standouts of this season for movie going so far. As mentioned, IMAX is a must for this one. I saw it in that format, and it really just was immersive and really vibrant. I will definitely be seeing this again. I know a lot of people in my own life are very interested in this movie, even if they're not interested in film. So that's a very fascinating crossover. Definitely going to seek out a repeat viewing. There's actually a drive-in theater near me, which is a crazy sentence to say in 2025 that those still exist. But I'm thinking this would be one of those great movies to watch at that venue.
Yeah, for sure. Shawn, what's your final rating here?
I am going to give it a very strong, confident 7 out of 10. I've said my issues about it, but other than that, like everybody, I had a great time with it when it was having its moments. I'm very excited to see the future of this universe and these characters. And Ethan brought it up, but Millie Alec as Supergirl, that one small scene made me so much more excited for a movie than it was a week ago. I'm excited to see that portrayal of the Woman of Tomorrow comics. I've already been hearing stuff about how much they're going to be using that as inspiration, and I'm excited. Yeah, it met my expectations fairly well, and I'm just happy with that.
For sure. Derrick, what was your final rating now?
Yeah, so in my review, I gave it an 8 out of 10, so 4 out of 5. I think that's probably where it lands. I could be convinced to bring it down to 3.5, maybe even 3, honestly, if you make a strong enough case. So I think where this movie ultimately falls is whatever you want out of a Superman movie, this movie is probably going to deliver. And that's for better or worse, right? If you are, and I know I like to give them a lot of shit, but it's deserved. If you are, one of these diehard Snyder trolls that just can't believe that there's any other movie in existence except for Man of Steel, then yeah, like this movie's probably not for you, right? Like if you're on the wrong side of history, kind of just across the board, like yeah, this movie's probably not for you. Sorry, Dean. Um, but but like if you want a fun Superman, if you grew up with the Superman cartoons, if this is something that has always been near and dear to your heart, like yeah, well then this movie is for you. If you want a lighter touch, if you want a good successful blockbuster that does all the things a blockbuster should, and you just want a good entertaining movie, yeah, this movie's probably for you. If you need a beacon of hope, if you need humanity, if you just need to escape for a while, like yeah, then go see this movie. Like it's really whatever you want it to be. And I think for all my criticisms of it being overstuffed and really messy and definitely needs some focus, I think that ultimately provides it a much wider array of accessibility, which I don't think we've had in a comic book movie for a very, very long time. And actually, then I like that you kind of brought up that Iron Man kind of comparison and just how they're kind of talking about it, because that's what Marvel used to do. Marvel used to give fully fledged scripts and then introduce a brand new director there's no, if you watch those first.
Except Iron Man, because it was during the writer's strike.
Okay, that's fair. But for the most part, if you watch most of that stuff in that first phase, like you're literally going from I don't know why I'm blanking on his name, the one who did Iron Man. What's
John Favreau.
Thank you, John Favreau. I don't know why that just farted out of my brain, but you literally go from like John Favreau to Kenneth Branagh. Like you can't be more distinct, even though they're taking over a similar comic book world. But that's the kind of risk that they used to take. They used to just find very good singular directors that can introduce their own vision, and it just had to be complete. It just had to be its own story. And I think that's something that the Superman film does really well. And I think it also gives a lot of promise to what's going to come next. So,
yeah, I think you all make entirely valid points that I would echo. I think that I like that this movie doesn't inherently set up for the next movie. I like that it's pretty self-contained. And Mitchell mentioned a drive-in experience. I did see it in IMAX, and I very much enjoyed it in IMAX. But I also think you can see it in standard screenings. I think you can see it at a drive-in. I think it's going to play really well on VOD or streaming when it gets there. It's such a fun movie, and so universally approachable, except for the subcategories that Derrick mentioned. um it's so universally approachable that like I just really like this approach to a superhero movie, superhero movie. And I am also interested in seeing where this goes. Like how do we build superhero cinematic universes now, that the Marvel formula doesn't even work for Marvel anymore. So it'll be interesting to see where that goes. But as for this one, I'm at a 3.5. I'm also looking forward to seeing it again at some point, hopefully in theaters before Fantastic Four takes all the screens. But yeah, like I said, this is a very easy one to recommend to so many people, and I think that is really a hallmark characteristic of a blockbuster. So yeah, that's how I felt. Yeah, if most of us have reviews for this one, right? So if you want to plug, let's do some plugs. Mitchell, where can people find your review?
Yeah, you can find my review for Superman at YouTube and my website, Movies with Mitchell, where I review it on Fox 19.
Yeah, Ethan, do you have a review that you wanted to plug?
Yeah, you can find me on Letterboxd at you can go to letterboxd.com/FUN_EMAN_. I have a review there of Superman. It's really short, nothing too deep. I kind of do a lot better in conversation when talking about movies, but give me more followers on Letterboxd, I guess.
Nice. And we have this podcast, so you can do that as well. Derrick, where can people find your review?
Yeah, you can find my review at nerdbot.com. And then you can find me on pretty much all the socials. You can Google my name. Most of them are at DRock Comedy, Letterboxd, all of them, all across the board. So
And Shawn, where can people find your review that will be live before this video goes online?
Well, when this video is up, my review should be on TikTok, Instagram, the ForReel website. Excited for everyone to see that because it echoes everything I've been saying in this conversation. There's also my letterbox, Shawn Peer. I think the username itself is SPeer, so SPEER 13. My review was just saying, why does the baby look like Chicken Jockey? That's like, I need to have I want to look back in 30 years and my kid be like, what does this mean? And then I'll show him the movie and be like, oh. Sometimes you just have to have a review to just encapsulate your thoughts in time and have it forever instilled there. And that's what I'm using it for. Yeah.
That's fair.
It's probably my favorite observation of this entire show, Shawn.
The moment I saw it, I was like, "Oh God damn it! I can't take this seriously anymore."
That's hilarious. I kicked up Real Buzzed again finally, so you can find my Real Buzzed video and review for Superman at thisisforreal.com and on YouTube, which I actually paired with my review for Sovereign. I don't know how many people got around to that one, but quick shout out to Sovereign for being a really cool, not cool. I mean, it's a heavy watch, but it's a really well done kind of dramatic crime thriller. And I recommend it. So just a quick shout out for that. So, all right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining me in this conversation about Superman. Like I said, you can find our content with ForReel at thisisforreal.com. ForReel, of course, spelled FORREEL. And that's it on this week. This week on ForReel. We will catch you guys next week.